Imagine this scene. You're home alone in your house. Your nearest neighbor is a mile away. Today you're a bit tipsy and decide to swim in your outdoor pool to fend off the summer heat. Except you're so drunk you dive into the shallow end, breaking both arms. With no ladders in the pool, you're stuck. Dead or alive, you're gonna spend a month in this pool. How's that gonna work out for you? Not as you expect, we imagine. Just so you know, this little nightmare scene we created for you is not out of the bounds of possibility. We found a research paper published by the National Institutes of Health that talked about spinal injuries that occurred when people dived into swimming pools. The paper looked at 34 such injuries that happened in the U.S. in private swimming pools from 1996 to 2006. In some cases, the trauma to the spine was severe. Amazingly, 33 out of the 34 cases were males. 88% of the cases happened from June to August. The paper stated the mean age of the patient was 27 years old, range 13 to 49. The paper also said the injuries led to 11 divorces and 7 job losses. For you, that's the least of your concerns. Spine and head injuries are the most common when it comes to diving into the water, but if you can do that kind of damage to your neck, you can certainly break your wrists or arms. Just to make sure, we looked at a study of diving injuries published by the Nature Journal, and indeed, broken arm and damaged shoulder was on the list of 72 cases. Alcohol was also mentioned. 52 of the cases involved diving into shallow water, 5 feet or less. In your case, you don't drown, unlike the 3,500 to 4,000 Americans that drown each year, or the 236,000 the WHO says drown in the world each year. 11 Americans drown every day, but there are on average 22 non-fatal drownings a day, which works out to almost 8,000 a year. In the U.S., 80% of deaths from drowning are males, which the CDC says is related to increased exposure to water, risk-taking behaviors, and alcohol use. If you're an African American, you'll need to listen to us carefully. If you're under 29 and African American, you have twice the chance of drowning than white folks in that age group. If you're 25 to 29, the CDC says black people drown at 3.5 times the rate of white people. It added, in swimming pools, black children ages 10 to 14 years drown at rates of 7.6 times higher than white children. According to the USA Swimming Foundation and the University of Memphis, 64% of African American children cannot swim, compared to 40% of Caucasian children who cannot swim. The Swimming Foundation also said, if a parent can't swim, there is just a 13% chance that their kids will learn how to swim. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission reports that about 4,900 people in the U.S. end up in the ER yearly because of a swimming pool injury. Around 390 people die in swimming pools each year, or at least that was the case when the data was collected. 74% of these deaths happened at people's houses. What's really scary is something known as circulation entrapment. That's when someone's hair, body part, or swimsuit gets stuck in a pool drain or a suction pipe. In 2012, Canadian media reported about a guy in British Columbia who ended up stuck in a swimming pool for 3 days when his ponytail got caught in the pipe. We found more cases when a person was stuck with their head above water, so they could have been stuck there for a long time without a rescue team. In 2012, a Russian girl died 11 days after her arm got stuck in a pipe while her family was on vacation in Turkey. A guy in Florida in 1994, staying at the Scottish Inn Motel, had to be freed when his penis got caught in a pool pipe. The beginning maybe of a Florida Man series? But how many people actually get stuck in pools for a long time? There was the case of the 61-year-old American woman who in 2017 at her home in New Hampshire was trying to get out of her pool when the stair snapped under her rather portly frame. She told the press, "Because my tenants were out and nobody was home, my phone was inside." She had lady luck on her side though. She was able to use a pool pole to get to her iPad lying nearby and write a message on Facebook. The message said, "I need someone to bring me tools and help me change the steps so I can get out of the pool. I'm serious, I don't have the agility to climb out any other way." Or now let's look at your case with your broken arms and no way out. First of all, you need to drink. Humans can generally survive without any water at all for 3 days. Some can survive for longer, but at some point, if you don't want to die, you're going to need water. Fortunately, you're surrounded by the stuff. If it's a small pool, you might have 8,500 gallons of water around you. Many household pools contain 18,000 to 20,000 gallons. Unfortunately, that water isn't the same as the stuff that comes out of your tap. Properly maintained pools contain a bunch of chemicals, including chlorine. The good news is we drink chlorine with our tap water. While large amounts of the stuff can lead to digestive distress or, in very large amounts, nervous and respiratory problems, the amount in your pool is fine. There are other chemicals in swimming pools, but as you know, people swallow that water by accident all the time. We don't advise you to start drinking from pools whenever you get thirsty. You'd look like a dog. But if it's a matter of life or death, knock yourself out. Drink it, but perhaps take it easy. Pools are dirty places. They can expose you to E. coli or perhaps parasites like Giardia. The CDC says every time a person goes into a pool, they take about 0.14 grams of feces there on average. It might depend on how well you wiped off or if you prefer the bum gun over the dirty paper tradition. Researchers at the University of Alberta said in a study that the average public pool carries about 20 gallons of urine and private pools about 2 gallons. This might not be a big deal for you at the start, but as things go on, this dirty pool is going to play havoc with your body. On top of the bacteria and parasite problem, you might have animal waste, bits of bird droppings, bugs, and bug waste, and whatever other debris might have collected in the pool. Same goes for saltwater pools, which are also chlorinated. But thanks to the low salinity levels in saltwater pools, drinking from them isn't nearly as dangerous as drinking from the ocean. The latter don't ever do, even if you're desperate. But your saltwater pool is fine to drink from when severe dehydration is facing you. Okay, so you're not going to die from dehydration. So that's something you have on your side. What you might not have on your side is heat. Did you know that because of the density of water, it conducts heat away from you about 25 times faster than air? Your body temperature is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but when it falls below 95, you are in the first stages of hypothermia. If it falls below 89.6 degrees Fahrenheit and 82.4 degrees Fahrenheit, you have moderate hypothermia. You may start to turn bluish, have slurred speech, and your mind might start playing tricks on you. You're now at risk of dangerous heart rhythms and a large drop in blood pressure. Anything less than 82.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're heading toward the black shores of cardiac arrest, coma, and death. That booze you drank might not be a good thing as alcohol expands blood vessels, making the heat leave you faster. How you fare in terms of hypothermia depends on how hot your pool is. Most of us like pool temperatures between 78 degrees Fahrenheit and 82 degrees. 78 might be just ideal for competitive swimming, but too cool for most people who are just relaxing. 80 is just about right for most people, and anything after 82 might start to feel a bit like taking a bath. Any of you who live in countries that are incredibly hot, or maybe you live in a US state with blistering temperatures, you will know that in times of extreme heat, it's not actually that enjoyable to take a dip. News media in the US, namely Texas and Arizona, have reported stories of people measuring their pool temperature at well over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, closer even to 100. People in Texas have been known to dump 300-pound blocks of ice in their pools, and it hardly did a thing. Heat matters. If you were in a pool that was about 70 degrees, you'd slowly get freezing. You could probably survive for about 12 hours, but let's face it, no one in their right mind would go for a relaxing swim in a cold pool. This video would also be no fun if we made the pool water chilly, as we'd have to end here on day 1. The experts say that if the water is hotter than 80, you'll still lose heat, but very, very slowly. Still, you'll avoid hypothermia. It also matters how warm the air is outside, but given we're talking about summer in the US, let's say it's warm. Let's also say that the water in the shallow end of the pool comes up to your nipples. You're definitely not out of the woods, even though you still feel pretty warm after a day submerged. You're scared and bored, and you feel fine in terms of your health. You'll have noticed your skin in certain areas has become wrinkled, a process referred to as pruning. If you're wondering why this happens, here's what a scientist told the Huffington Post. The reason that you get such wrinkly hands and feet is because the surface of your skin is covered in dead keratin cells, and they absorb water faster than any other cells. Because they're attached to live keratin cells beneath, they just puff up and end up having to wrinkle. This might have been an evolutionary adaptation, since wrinkled fingers help us grip things. After a few days, this wrinkling starts to look severe. You might not have thought much about your skin when you first got stuck, but it's actually quite a serious issue. It will be soon anyway. We know what water-submerged skin looks like after 10 days, thanks to a guy in South Africa who spent that amount of time underwater. With a breathing apparatus, of course, but his hands were not covered. The skin started to take on a kind of translucent look, but he didn't have any serious breaks or blisters on his skin. In 2006, an Australian man spent 4 days treading water when he was lost at sea. When he was rescued, he was hallucinating wildly and had severe hypothermia, so his skin wrinkling was the last of his problems. So we reckon you in your pool might be able to go for a few days without any significant skin problems. That said, we found another study that told us clinical and histologic observations of test sites exposed to water for 72 to 144 hours revealed intense subacute dermatitis. In layman's terms, that means scalding and crusting. In 3 to 6 days, you might start to see this effect. An added dilemma for you is your pool contains those chemicals, which will definitely irritate your skin after a few days. At least you're not totally submerged in the water, you can walk around, which should mean your muscles don't atrophy. In fact, every day you have a regimen of things you need to do, including walking exercises and mental exercises, such as counting the leaves on the various trees. This is going to be very important regarding your survival. Still, you can't sleep. If you fall asleep, you might drown. Most people will start to hallucinate after just 3 or 4 nights without sleep. You might become paranoid and lose your sense of reasoning, which does not bode well for a person with broken arms in the middle of a pool. The longest anyone has gone without sleep is usually said to be 264 hours or just over 11 days, a record set by a 17-year-old American guy named Randy Wright in 1964. Still, another American, Robert McDonald, might have gone 453 hours 40 minutes or 18 days 21 hours and 40 minutes without sleep in 1986. It's hard to know, though, if these people had what's called microsleep, which is a tiny bit of sleep barely noticeable to another person. In the pool, you could lean against the side and get in a microsleep, although it's also possible you could fall asleep and wake up with your head under the water. While this could be uncomfortable, there's no reason you couldn't get in a few winks this way, especially if you could squeeze into the corner of the pool. Once you've been in the pool for, let's say, around 15 days, even if you're very healthy, the lack of food will start to make you feel lightheaded due to low blood sugar levels. On top of this, you are sleep deprived and in pain. This will all affect your immune system, which you'll need more than ever while wasting away in a place full of bacteria. Health experts say in general people get ill from not eating between 30 and 50 days and usually die somewhere between 43 and 70 days, although there are stories of people dying sooner than that. One report said a woman in Florida was found dead after 26 days of her religious fast. That's when her body was found anyway, she might have died before that. While intermittent fasting might be good for the immune system, being starved for days on end without any essential nutrients can be bad for it. This is concerning for you because now you've been in the water for 20 days and your skin's natural protective coating has been damaged. You need your immune system to be working at full throttle to fend off the bacteria. Now you're really starting to wish you installed a bubble gun in your bathroom. You're half mad, not sleeping much, intermittently losing all sense of where you are. You're occasionally hearing voices, and now and again, you talk to people who aren't there. Now your skin issues have turned into open sores that have become infected. Your immune system is so weak, you're struggling to fight these infections. They look like they're spreading. You're now at high risk of developing sepsis, which is your body's extreme response to infections. This could lead to septic shock, a severe drop in blood pressure, which can result in organ failure and massive tissue damage. 270,000 Americans die each year from sepsis, many with much more minor conditions than being covered in infected spores in a poop-strewn swimming pool. By day 30, many people would be dead. You've survived, but only because your body has managed to keep sepsis at bay. At this point, you're absolutely covered in sores. You're literally falling apart. Even though you've had many temporary bouts of psychosis, you've managed to stay with it enough mentally to know to drink enough. This is partly because of your daily regimen of light physical and mental exercises, which has helped you to not descend into absolute madness. You might be starving to death, but your body can last a fair bit longer just because when you went into the water, you were fairly young and healthy. Nonetheless, you've gone from 180 pounds to 140 pounds. As you're rescued from the pool, your skin is peeling off. You look like a mild version of the Toxic Avenger and are about 3 steps away from death's door. Still, you have proved that with the right mental approach and with an uncompromised immune system, 30 days in the pool is survivable. Now you need to watch the craziest plane crash that turned survivors into cannibals, or check out this survival epic, how insanely creative prisoners escaped from maximum security prison.